years ago, a group of friends and I decided we were going to head up to Watkins Glen, New York for the Finger Lakes Wine Festival. A weekend event where all the wine producers in the upstate New York area were going to sit there and sell their wares. And the bonus is that they allowed camping at the racetracks. So we loaded up our camping gear and we headed up north to upstate New York. Now, let me explain this bacchanal. This was the infield of the Watkins Glen Raceway, a veritable conglomerate of canopies and tents and booths with all of the local wine merchants up there selling their Rieslings and their Chardonnays. And the beautiful thing is people were walking around in togas with wreaths in their hair. And when I say people, I mean like us. They had lanyards around their necks to hold the wine glasses, like hands-free, kind of like a feed bag on a plow horse, right? And we just spent the whole day tasting wine, which is just a nice way of basically saying drinking all day long. And at the end of a long day of drinking, it was a real pleasure to be able to just walk back to our campsites and collapse. So we got back to our campsites, we had ourselves a nice little kind of cowboy dinner around the campfire, and as darkness fell, we all kind of stumbled into our tents and passed out. But about 3 hours later, I was awoken by the sound of some loud voices and some laughter, and as I'm laying there unable to sleep, I'm listening to these voices. It sounded like a group of guys that were like laughing, saying, "Oh my God, we're the only ones still awake," and "Wow, we're gonna stay up all night." And I realized there's probably a lot of people who are trying to sleep and can't sleep through this noise. So I decided to kind of get out of my tent. So I unzipped the flap and I walked through the woods, followed the light from their campfire, and I come across this group of probably 5 or 6 young 20-year-old guys, which are all sitting around and just having a good time. And I said, "Hey guys, you probably don't realize how much your voices are carrying here in the woods, but it's kind of late. If you look around, everybody's kind of turned in for the night, and you have to do me a favor, just kind of keep it down a little bit. It's okay." And I turned around and I kind of walked back to my tent, and I crawled into my tent, and I gave them a little bit of time to kind of wrap things up. But it became obvious after a half hour that they were not going to wrap things up. Now, I didn't want to be a Karen before like a Karen was a thing, but I'm freaking too old and too cranky to be laying there in my tent, afraid to go and confront these guys. So I unzipped the flap and I walked back again, and this time I'm like, "Guys, I tried to be respectful last time. This time I'm telling you, time to wrap this up, get back in your tent, and let's get some sleep." One of the guys said, "You know what, you can't talk to me that way. You're not my father." I said, "Well, maybe your father should be here to teach you some manners." In the blink of an eye, that guy was up out of his camping chair and he charged me. And before I knew it, there was this guy, college kid, 6'2", standing right in front of me. His chest is in my face, his fists are clenched. I could feel my hair blowing every time he exhaled through his flaring nostrils. And I'm like, uh-oh. Now, all I could hear in my head was like the voice of one of those old like narrators from the wildlife documentary shows we used to watch. You know, it's like, "The young buck is challenging the alpha male. If the alpha male is defeated, he will have to lead the safety of the herd, and he will shortly perish." So I'm thinking, what do I do? Well, I can't fight these guys, right? I'm by myself, I'm in my shorts. The last fight I got into was in 5th grade. It did not go well. Susan Horowitz punched me in the stomach when I wasn't looking, and while I was gasping for air, she walked away, and I did 0-1 is my fight record. So I thought, that's not gonna work. But I did study animal behavior in college, and I know that a lot of these displays are very ritualistic, right? They're meant to avert physical violence. So I'm thinking, what can I do to display my dominance, right? So I'm thinking, well, elephants, right? Elephants like flap their ears and they wave their trunks around, and I'm like, I'm not really sure that pulling out my trunk and twirling it around would really be all that intimidating. I'm like, that's probably not gonna work. Chimpanzees like to throw their poop. right? Not really sure that's going to send the right message either. So instead I decided I'm going to emulate Clint Eastwood. So I kind of relaxed. I lifted my eyes to catch his gaze, and I said in a very calm but very menacing way, I said, son, you'll want to back the hell up if you know what's good for you. And it worked, right? His friends come over, they pull him back. We're so sorry, sir. We're so sorry. You won't hear anything else from us. And as I walked away, I decided to turn and say, you don't want me coming back a third time. And I went back to my tent, and it worked. I did not hear another peep from them all night long. I got a good night's sleep. In the morning, I decided to kind of get up, have breakfast, maybe get an early start before there was any other further confrontation. So I packed up all my gear and hit the road and headed back home. And on the way, I was thinking about a few things I had with me that I didn't have when I began this road trip. The first was I had a little bit more swagger in my step. I had a few bottles of some delicious Chardonnay from upstate New York, and I had a slightly soiled pair of underpants.